Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you a variety of methods to create 3D flowers in CLO3D. So let's dive right in. Method 1. The cutout technique. To begin, I've uploaded an outfit into the 3D window. For this demonstration, I'll add a cutout flower design to the center front bodice. First, I will draw a circle using internal ellipse tool to determine the size of the flower and the placement. Here is a flower pattern I have already created with polygon tool. Right-click on the pattern and choose Clone as internal shape. Place this internal shape within the circle. Adjust the size and position. Once it's done, I can start making the cutout portion. Select the two curved segment lines from the flower outline, right-click and choose Offset as internal line. Then use Internal Polygon tool to close base portion. And the first petal is complete. I will also add a small internal circle at the center. Duplicate first petal by using copy and paste. Then rotate it to create the second petal. Before proceeding, I will test the first two pieces to see how the cutout looks. Select both internal petal shapes, right-click and choose Cut and Sew. Move them to a new location in 2D window. Use Edit Sewing tool. Delete the two curved segments on each petal and leave the base connecting to the bodice. Lower particle distance to 5. Use Internal Polygon tool. Add one internal line near the petal tip and another at the center. Select Fold Arrangement tool from 3D window toolbar. Click the center internal line on the petal and move the arrow to fold the piece. Use Free Sewing tool to attach the petal tip internal line to the center circle. Repeat the steps for the second petal and click Simulate. Delete center internal line on the petal and simulate again to get a nicer curve shape. You can strengthen the pieces to help you adjust the position and shape. Once it's done, I will freeze the patterns. Repeat the process to finish the remaining petals. Now I have finished all the cutout pieces, I can start adding details, changing avatar pose, and preparing for rendering. Here is the final render. For this cutout method, here is an alternative way to attach the petals. Using the same example, this time, instead of folding the petals, I will attach the petal tips to their original positions. Once I've attached the petals, if leave the pattern as is, it will look flat. To make it lift up, I will increase the length of the petal pattern. You can either strengthen the pattern or add bone to stiffen them. Or add internal lines within the petal piece. And change fold angle to keep the piece in a curve shape. To add more interest to the design, I am going to add a second layer underneath. Select the petal, right-click and choose Layer Clone Under and remove linked editing. Scale the underlayer petal and make it slightly shorter, and simulate. I think it looks good. I will use the same method to finish the rest of the petal. Here is the render result. Moving on to the next method, the pressure technique. If you have watched my previous tutorial, how to create puffer jacket and quilting, you are probably already familiar with the pressure tool in CLO3D. In the 3D window, I have made a new outfit design. For this example, I will add a 3D flower design repeated across the entire sweater bodice. First, I will use internal polygon tool to draw the silhouette of the flower. Once it's done, select all the internal lines. Right-click and choose Copy and Paste to place the flower design across the front and back bodices, as well as the sleeves. Using shortcut keys will definitely make it easier in this case. On a Mac, press Command-C to copy and Command-V to paste. On a PC, it's Control-C and Control-V. After arranging all the flower positions, it's time to add pressure. Select Center Circles, right-click and choose Cut and Sew. While all the center circles are still selected, right-click again and choose Clone Layer Under to generate duplicated underlayer pieces. Lower particle distance to get a better puffer effect. Select all the top layer circles and go to Property Editor. Under Simulation Properties, you will find Pressure function. For the top layer, enter a positive pressure value. For the underlayer, enter a negative pressure value. Simulate and check the result. Increase the pressure values if you like it puffier. Next, I will use the same method to create flower petals. By the way, when using pressure function, I will recommend to select a softer or stretch material. However, if you prefer using woven fabric to achieve the same result, you can use Transform Pattern tool to slightly enlarge the cutout pattern pieces. Here is the render result of the Pressure 3D flower. Some of you might think the Pressure 3D flower looks more like quilting. Here's an alternative technique to enhance its three-dimensional appearance. Using the same flower silhouette, keep the flower center circle as we did before. For the petals, don't cut them out. Instead, use Trace tool from 2D window toolbar, hold Shift and select all the internal petal segment lines. Right-click and choose Trace as pattern to generate the petal pattern. Lower particle distance to 5 and attach petal base to the flower center with sewing tool. Select petal pattern, right-click and choose Clone Layer Under. Enter positive pressure amount to top layer and negative pressure amount to the underlayer. Use Gizmo, move the petal pattern closer to the flower center in 3D window and click Simulate. Adjust the petal until you are satisfied with the look. From the first petal, use copy and paste to make duplicates, rotate and attach them around the center circle. Once the first flower is complete, I can duplicate all 4 petals and sew them to the next circle. Repeat the same steps to finish all the flowers. And here is the render result. The third method I'll demonstrate is the Ruffle 3D flower, which is one of my favorite techniques for creating 3D flowers. It's quick, easy, and delivers a dramatic effect that really stands out. There are 2 different ways to create ruffle flowers, and I'll start by showing the first method, which uses a long single-piece pattern. In 3D window, I have made a new dress design. On the left front bodice, I created a circle pattern which will be the placement for the 3D flower. First, I will use internal polygon tool to draw a spiral line within the circle. Once it's completed, I will convert all the unnecessary points to curve point to create a clean segment line. Select the internal spiral, and the total length will be displayed. I will double this measurement and use it as length to create a 1-inch wide rectangular pattern. Make one side of the rectangle narrower and the other side wider. Then curve both corners with Smooth Curve tool. I will also use Smooth Curve tool to curve the rectangle pattern slightly. Next, I will attach this piece to the spiral line by using Free Sewing tool. Starting from the center of the spiral out, I will attach the narrower portion toward the center. In 3D window, select the rectangle piece, right-click and choose Superimpose over. Use Gizmo to move it slightly away from the circle base pattern and click Simulate. Lower particle distance to 5. Adjust rectangle pattern width as needed until you are satisfied with how the flower looks. To make the flower more natural looking, I will add the lettuce edge. Select the rectangle pattern outer segment line. Go to Property Editor and turn on Elastic function. Increase elastic ratio value according to your preference. And simulate. And there, I have made a Ruffle 3D flower. The second way of making ruffle flower, using the same dress design. This time I will right-click the circle outline, and choose Offset as internal line. Enter the distance amount and the number of offsets and click OK. Before adding ruffles, I will create the flower center. Right-click the center circle internal line and choose Clone as pattern. Lower particle distance and sew it back to the center circle. Next, click the first circle outline to get the length. Use this measurement and double it to create a rectangle pattern. I will recommend to start adding ruffle from the outside and work toward the center. Sew one side of the pattern to the circle outline. Use Superimpose Side to place this piece on the circle in 3D window. To prevent collision, you can freeze the rest of the dress pattern before simulation. Close the rectangle ends. Add lettuce edge with elastic function to the ruffle pattern. And there, I have finished the first ruffle layer. To create the rest of the ruffle, instead of making new rectangle pattern each time, I will select the first ruffle pattern and make a duplicate. Use Transform Pattern tool to scale it slightly shorter and narrower than the first ruffle pattern. And sew it to the second circle segment. Simulate and check if there's any issue. If everything looks fine, I will freeze the ruffle pattern and repeat the same steps to produce all the ruffles. And here is the final result. Pretty simple, right? Both ways can create very nice 3D ruffle flower, and they all turn out pretty nice. You can choose either way to create the flower that matches your design. For this final method, I'll show you how to create individual flower petals and assemble them into a stunning 3D flower. Depending on the size of your flower, this technique might take a little longer to complete, but the results are definitely worth it. In the 3D window, I have made a strapless dress design, and I will add a large flower in the center front. Just like I demonstrated earlier, I'll start by using the internal ellipse tool to draw a circle on the front panel of the dress. Next, I'll create a rectangular pattern and upload an image of a flower petal using the graphic tool. Once that's done, I'll move the piece to the circle to check if the size of the graphic needs any adjustments. Afterward, I'll trace the silhouette of the petal using the internal polygon tool. When the tracing is complete, I'll select all the internal lines, right-click, and choose Cut. Lower particle distance. Next, I will create an internal line and attach the base of the petal to the circle. For the first petal, I will place at the 12 o'clock position. Click Simulate to check if there's any issue. If I attach the petal to the bodice as is, it's going to look a little flat. That's why I added an internal line within the petal pattern, so I could adjust the internal line's angle to create a curved shape and folds. Also, I will select Petal Outline, turn on Elastic function and increase value to create lettuce edge. Now that I am satisfied with how the first petal looks, I'll start duplicating it and placing the petals around the circle. The spacing between each petal is totally up to you, and it doesn't have to be perfectly even. With the first layer of petals done, let's move on to the second layer. I'll use copy and paste to duplicate a petal from the first layer. For this layer, I'll make the petals slightly smaller by using the Transform Pattern tool to scale them down. Since I'm using a graphic for the petal texture, I'll also need to adjust the graphic size to fit the new dimensions. Once it's done, I will remove the old internal lines and add new ones in different spots. For each layer, I'll place internal lines in different positions and create various shapes. This will give the petals a natural, non-uniform appearance, making the flower look even more lifelike. Now the second layer petal is ready. I need to add more internal circles. Right-click on the first internal circle and choose Offset as internal line. Enter the distance and number of offsets depends on how many layers of petals you want for the 3D flower. Then click OK to exit. Using Free Sewing tool, I will attach the petal to the second layer circle. This time I will start from the 2 o'clock position. Repeat the same step to make duplicated petals and attach them to the second layer circle. Using the same method, I will finish the third and fourth layers. And here is the render result. If making individual flower petals feels overwhelming, here's a simpler way you can use. Instead of making multiple petals of each layer, I will create a single layer that has 5 petals with base connected at center. In the 3D window, I transformed the strapless dress into a halter neck style, and I made a circle pattern as the center of the flower base. Create a rectangle pattern and import the flower's silhouette graphic. Draw a center internal line within the rectangle pattern. Match flower graphic center to the center internal line. Use Trace tool to trace half of the flower outline. Right-click on Center Internal Line and choose Cut. Then select all the flower segment lines, right-click and choose Cut. Right-click on Center Segment Line and choose Unfold to get a full pattern. Delete the graphic and convert unnecessary point to curve point and lower particle distance. Now the petal layer is pretty much done. Go back to the dress bodice. Right-click on the circle pattern outline and choose Offset as internal line to add an internal circle. Make a copy of this circle and paste the duplicate at the center of the petal layer pattern. On the petal layer pattern, I will add internal lines on each petal to create fold and curve shape. Sew the petal layer center circle to the base circle and simulate. Strengthen the pattern and select internal lines to adjust angle in Property Editor until it reaches your desired shape. Add lettuce edge to the outline. Unstrengthen the pattern, and the first petal layer is finished. To make the second layer, simply just duplicate the first layer, scale it down slightly, and connect center circle to the first layer center circle using free sewing tool. When attaching each layer, try to change sewing start point to offset the petals between layers for a more natural look. Repeat these steps to add 2 more layers. Once all the layers are in place without any issues, I can add the finished touches and prepare for rendering. Here is the result. And that wraps up our 3D flower demonstration for this tutorial. I hope this video has inspired you to explore and create even more exciting and unique designs. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more creative content. See you in the next video.